Every year, Open Studios Knots showcases the work of hundreds of artists around Nottinghamshire. Whilst unfortunately the current situation means artists are unable to physically open their studio doors, Open Studios Knots is offering the experience virtually this May and June for you to enjoy at home or maybe even in your gardens like me. I've been speaking to some local artists and makers, including Upton artist Susan Isaac, who will do a much better job of introducing herself.
Well, my name's Susan Isaac, and I'm a painter and sculptor. I work in Nottinghamshire at my home farm, and my work is sort of figurative, but semi-abstract perhaps at times. So yeah, it sort of siegs between the two.
What's your sort of experience then within the art industry? Was it something that you kind of jumped into from early on, or is it something you kind of picked up along the way?
I'd always wanted to be an artist, I think, from quite an early age. I was the artist at school when I was, quite young, and so I kind of gradually became something that I always knew I wanted to do. Did art, went to art college initially in Cardiff, and from there I did a design history degree, and slightly strangely moved into archaeology, did an industrial archaeology course, and became an archaeological illustrator for quite a while, which took me to all sorts of interesting places, interesting landscapes. So when I stopped working in archaeology, had a family, eventually came back round to art. Landscape archaeology kind of featured quite prolifically in my work, sort of ruins in beautiful remote landscapes. Yeah, it sort of came back full circle, really.
Lovely. And living in Upton as well, obviously you're quite a big driving force behind the Open Studios, yourself and your husband. What do you think, have you always lived in Upton? Why do you think Upton is such a special place for supporting the arts within Nottinghamshire?
Yeah, no, I haven't always lived in Upton. We moved here in about 1990, well, to have a family, and because it was Michael's family farm. I don't know, it does seem to be quite a special place for the arts, and it has been for some years in different ways, in different art forms. We had a terrific drama group at one point, somebody who's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was very driving in theatrical circles, and just at the moment seems to have a bit of a flowering with the visual arts, but music as well here. I don't know. It's a lovely community, lovely. I don't know. It's just I don't know what it is about it, but I think once you have somebody who's interested in a particular thing, they, other people are drawn to them, and it starts to build. And at the moment, because of Michael and myself, perhaps it seems to be inspiring other people to come and join in and take part. So at the moment, the visual arts.
And can you just, going specifically to your art and your artistic style, what sort of inspires and influences your work?
Lots of inspirations over the years. Other artists from, I don't know, early on in my artistic interest was somebody like Turner, but then more recently, I guess the British modern landscape artists. I don't know, people will probably know Kerry Richards and John Piper, perhaps. There's always a sort of an ongoing influence, I suppose, of artists. You keep picking people up, old and new, really. I'm constantly flicking through all my books to find influences, and obviously online you're constantly seeing interesting stuff going on, and yeah. But apart from that, it's just the whole environment of being in archaeology that sort of feeds into it as well.
With the archaeology, that's such an interesting place to take your inspiration from, especially living where you do, with obviously like the villas and stuff in Southport. So that's really interesting. I hadn't realised that at all. And so when you are working, do you work from life, from outside, or in the studio?
I mean, a bit of a mixture of everything, really. It's really nice to be able to be out, working from the landscape itself, and obviously at the moment we've been a bit contracted down, but in the past I've worked wherever we've ended up, and I'm kind of used to as an illustrator of archaeology out landscapes. It's just been what I've kind of done naturally in a way. So it's very odd how it's, you know, the two things are constantly playing off against each other, the landscape and archaeology and painting, and three things. Into the studio, sometimes I'm working from life in the studio. You know, I think you've probably seen the work I did from Elsa with doing a portrait of her as she is in the studio. So yes, a bit of a mixture.
And just so that how can people, if people obviously would be missing coming to the Open Studios and having a wander about, how can people find you and, most importantly, buy your work?
Yeah, well, we've had to move from our usual Open Studio weekend, which would be coming up this coming weekend. We've had to work into a virtual space, so we are going to be here and providing access to the studio in that way. We've put on videos already through something called the Not Stopping Festival, and we'll carry on adding more work in a similar vein, videos of what I'm doing this coming weekend. And then online, I have a website. I put stuff on Instagram and Facebook, so there should be places there for people to find my work, hopefully. It seems to be the way that we're all going at the moment, and it happens to feed into the way of the world. It's forced us to learn to use these new mechanisms, and in some ways it's been a useful activity. Unfortunate times, but that's the way.
Yeah, and just to sort of expand on that, what sort of effect has lockdown had? Obviously, you can work from home, but has it affected sort of what you produce? Are you taking any inspiration from the current situation that we've got?
It's been, it's had a huge influence on what's going on. I've obviously had to contract to the farm. It means I'm looking at what's going on around me instead of going out to my traditional area of influence, which might be, further afield, landscapes, seascapes, what have you. I'm suddenly looking at the microcosm of where I live and the people I'm living with. So I'm doing portraits of the family, doing work. My daughter is furloughed, so I'm drawing her working in a computer at a computer in the kitchen, and I'm up in the orchard, painting my washing and literally the kitchen sink, and anything that I can get my hands on, really. It becomes an inspiration.
It's quite interesting how you're still able to get that inspiration whilst not leaving sort of your immediate area, which is lovely. And just sort of finally, obviously a lot of people, myself included, will be gutted that they won't be able to attend the Open Studios this weekend. What sorts of things do you usually do? What did you have planned before, obviously, all this through the cat amongst the pigeons?
Yeah, well, normally we would have our guest artists here at the farm, Mark and Carl, who are a ceramic artist and a woodworker, but they again will be joining us virtually. I would be here with a lot of stuff set up. I'll probably do some kind of online activity over the weekend. We would normally be welcoming people and having who knows what going on here, but obviously that's all changed. But we hope to put something on for people to see, and in a way it kind of, because it's online, more people in a way can come and have a look at what we're up to and get into the studio. Perhaps people who wouldn't normally get a chance to come over will see it, and it's just nice to be able to continue it, you know, ready for next year. We're here. It's still available.
A big thank you to Susan for speaking to me. You can find her work on her website, susan-isaac.co.uk. And for more information and to experience these virtual studio tours, plus much more, go to osnots.co.uk.